Hi everyone, welcome to our class today. Today I'm handling topic 7 of supply chain management information systems. And topic 7 is about implementation of the e-procurement strategy. Remember topic 6 last time we were looking at formulation. You first formulate a strategy and then you come and implement the strategy you formulated. So the success rate of this topic or this part of the topic will depend on how well you formulated your e-procurement strategy. Remember, I told you an e-procurement strategy is basically a plan. If you're going to enter into e-procurement, you have to have a plan that caters for the entire e-procurement so that we know who will be affected, how will it be implemented, how will you go about it. So implementation is partly successful after you have formulated the strategy. So here we shall look at 4 or 5 key areas, starting with the basic area, implementation planning. You have to plan for implementation. Remember, you already have the system in place. You have done that ever since you know the suppliers, or you know you have the infrastructure in place. So you just put the system into practice to be able to see how good it will come out to be. So from this, we shall look at now, after doing the introduction, we shall look at the phases of implementation. There are basically 3 phases of implementation, which are very important. The first phase is a detailed design formulation. You come up with a detailed design formulation, and this will include the process, the system, IT management, security, the transition. So all that should be included in the detailed design formulation. Then step 2, you do the configuration. Configuration is now, you do the configuration of the tool. So you set up the e-procurement system, and then step 3, you testing the e-procurement tool. And there are 3 types of testing. Testing can be unit testing. Testing is unit testing is you are testing procurement system part by part. I start with part 1, then I go to part 2, then I go to part 3. And then the second type of testing is system integration testing, where you test the entire system. And then the last type of testing is the acceptance testing. You test whether the requirements are correct. Will the entire system be accepted? And some types of acceptance tests include functional acceptance test, performance acceptance test, and security acceptance test. Once you have done all that, you come and look at now the elements of an e-procurement implementation plan. Remember, when you're doing implementation of e-procurement, you have to come up with a plan. And this is just a normal plan we normally have. What you need to know is what to include in the plan, like the goals of the e-procurement, analysis of the stakeholders, need identification, market evaluation, management of contracts and systems. So all that should be included in the implementation plan. And then next, you are told the best practices when using an e-procurement system. So there are some practices we call best practices. If you employ them, they shall become the best, or your system will work perfectly. After looking at that, we shall look at the e-procurement key performance indicators. What will show you that procurement is performing? The e-procurement that you're implementing is performing. There are things you will have to watch out for, like transparency. You can measure transparency. How do you measure transparency? You look at the value and the number of notifications published in the system. Number 2, the number and value of purchasing transactions loaded in the system. Another measure of transparency is the number of competitive procurement results published in the system. So the system can be able to tell you if it is transparent or not. Another measure or key performance indicator is efficiency. Of course, there are measures of efficiency, like time used to prepare a tender document. So how long does it take you to prepare a tender document? That is efficiency of a system. Integrity, you can measure the integrity of a system. Number 4, the supplier development. Number 5, system performance. System performance, you look at things like the system downtime. Is it giving you these downtimes, and how bad are they? So those are key performance indicators. We call them key performance indicators because after you have implemented a system, you have to know, is it working properly or there is a problem with it. Then we look at impact of e-procurement. Of course, after implementation, you'll have to measure the impact. Things like it supports paperless communication, it increases competition, it enhances global sourcing. All those are benefits of e-procurement. They should come right after you have implemented the e-procurement system or strategy. Reduced costs, improved buyer-supplier relationships, increased transparency. So you'll be able to measure this impact and see, now that we introduced the e-system or the e-procurement system, are these benefits things that we can be able to see? Reduced procurement cycle time, reduced procurement fraud, all those are benefits. Key success factors for e-procurement implementation. Of course, if you want e-procurement implementation to be positive, you have to measure some things. So there have to be some things which have to be in place. One is leadership. Another one is policy and legal systems. The systems have to be in place. The policies have to be in place for implementation to be perfect. Things like institutional change. People should be ready to change from the older ways of doing things now to the newer ways of doing things. Awareness and capacity building, that one has to be in place. Change management program. There has to be a change management program to show that this is what we shall change from to. And then process reengineering, participation and adoption of suppliers. Suppliers have to participate fully because remember, procurement system integrates suppliers directly or it affects suppliers directly. Oh, so if they don't participate, then it means implementation may not work very well. Connectivity, security, all that should be in place. And then technology. We have barriers and challenges in implementing e-procurement strategy. These are the normal challenges we've been looking at since we began the unit. Things like infrastructure, security issues, legal issues, cultural issues, cost issues, compatibility issues. All of them are either challenges or barriers. Inadequate technological infrastructure, lack of qualified personnel, corporate culture, lack of integration with trading partners, regulatory and legal issues. All those are either challenges or barriers. High costs, reliability issues, compatibility issues. I'm repeating others because there are so many. Additional cost, time consuming, unreliable application service providers. So when it comes to barriers or challenges, they are what we have been looking at. Barriers of implementing an e-procurement system, it's the same thing. You will face challenges in one way or another, and you have to find out how are we able, because every barrier has to be passed. Every challenge has to be overcome. So once you identify a challenge like security threats, you should be able to know how to go about it. And all the challenges can be manageable in one way or the other. So by the time we are done with challenges and barriers, we will be done with the implementation part of the e-procurement strategy. So that is it for today.